The June 24th AEW Dynamite had weird matchups, people falling over, and a massive spot fest. Let's get into it. We started the night off with Jon Moxley and the Death Riders in the back. Mox was giving a huge pep talk to everybody before they came out for the first match of the night, and they invited Will Ospreay into the little jump spinny huddle, and at the very end of it, he fell over. He tripped on something. He fell almost into like a bucket, a trough, if you will. And then he popped back up, and he and Daniel Garcia just kind of laughed for a second, and then it smash cut into the arena when their music started. And we had Mox, Claudio, and Yuta up against Brodito and Mystico. And it was a pretty good match. You know, nothing wrong with it. Obviously, the Death Riders are heavy hitters. Brodito has the speed and the power. Adding in Mystico, they've got even more speed and a little bit more agility. But I didn't expect the agility from Brody King. He had Mox and Claudio both holding their hands, and he went and he hopped his big ass up onto the top rope, like using them as a ladder essentially, and then did a backflip and did an arm drag on both Mox and Claudio. And it was strange, to say the least, but it was amazing. The fact that he was able to pull that off just shows that you never know what to expect in AEW. The Death Riders did end up with the victory on that one, which wasn't really surprising, but it was a good match top to bottom. I suggest going and finding clips, go and find the whole match, do what you can. Go find the clip of Brody King doing that weird backflip into the double arm drag. It's phenomenal. Then we went to the back and we had Renee talking to Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, Darby Allin, and Takeshita. And they were basically just hyping up the match for this weekend. Briscoe was not with them, but O'Reilly was like, don't worry, he's got something to say later on in the night. Everybody stay tuned. And then everybody just kind of disbanded from there. We came to the second match of the night, which was Marina Shafir versus Harley Cameron in a Survival of the Fittest match. It was fine. I didn't expect too much from it. I honestly didn't expect the ending because everybody figured that Shafir was going to win, and then somehow Harley Cameron turned everything around and got a very strange little reversal into a roll-up into a pin, and Harley's moving on in the tournament. So that's fun, but I still would have wanted to see Shafir in it just so that she could try and go for the TBS title. It would have made things a little more interesting, especially with her ground and pound kind of aspect, whereas everybody else tries to do a little more agility-based stuff so far. But Harley Cameron, dressed as Superwoman, by the way, got the victory, and she's moving on to the pay-per-view. We went immediately into our next match after a commercial break, which saw Will Ospreay versus El Phantasmo, or ELP, depending on what you want to call him. He's a New Japan guy. We have seen him a handful of times. I think they said this was his 5th match in AEW. And it was really good. It was a lot of back and forth. It was a lot of silly shenanigans. Both men have very similar agility and style. But in the end, Ospreay did take the victory. So kudos to him, but it was nice to see Phantasmo again. It's been a hot minute. He's been over in Japan, and now that we're kind of commingling at the moment, it was good to see him come and do his silliness in our little squared circle. I'm not sure who put the next match together, but it was Swerve Strickland versus Daniel Garcia. And obviously we know who won. Swerve took the victory, not handedly though. That's the thing. Garcia got a lot of really good shots in. They had a lot of really good back and forth. Danny Boy was showing his strength, agility, his toughness, his panache, if you will. And it was more hard-hitting and longer than I figured it would be. Swerve did end up with the victory in the end, which we all knew, but it was a really good showing for Garcia nonetheless. We followed that up with a promo package for MJF and Briscoe and their little rivalry and feud that's going on leading into this cage match happening Sunday. It was a fine package. Everything flowed really well. Now we just have to wait for Sunday. After that, we got a DC MJF promo where the Don Callis family was all in the back standing on stairs, so they were all kind of staggered in the background, and MJF and Don Callis were doing their thing. It was kind of a mess. MJF didn't allow Dawn to introduce Andrade, which doesn't surprise anybody at this point, and that'll make even more sense later in the show. But it was just kind of a goofy little thing, and they've got a new shirt with Dawn and MJF standing shirtless, ripped bodies, holding hands, like cool brother guy, man. Somebody send me the shirt. It's very funny. We came back from the commercial break immediately into Jack Perry versus Zack Sabre Jr. Hell of a match. Both men, obviously we know Zack is a hellion when it comes to submission holds and rolling people into balls and just being such a weird little package person. But Perry's got more mat game than I thought he did, or at least that we've seen or been reminded of in a while. He was doing his very best to go tit for tat with Zack, and he was holding his own for quite a long time. Zack Sabre Jr. did end up getting the victory after a lot of shenanigans, and then we rolled immediately into a match between the Young Bucks and more TMDK members, Tito and Nichols. That was also a very solid match. We got the Young Bucks with the victory on that one. So kind of a tit for tat there when it comes to, the different teams, the Elite and TMDK, each getting a victory for the night. So good trade-off, good pair of matches. I don't have any complaints about either one of them. After the Bucks victory, though, Zack got back in the ring and started to beat up the Bucks with his TMDK guys. And that's when Omega came running out and he started to clear the ring. Jack Perry came back out and helped a little bit. And then Omega got on the mic and just talked a little bit of trash to Zack Sabre Jr., saying, I'm going to beat you and then people are going to forget about you again just like last year. Zack grabbed the mic and said, just try to stay out of the hospital this time. And then he dropped it and TMDK disappeared. The Elite hung out in the ring for a minute. We went to commercial break, and then we came back from commercial break into Aminata versus Red Velvet in a Survival of the Fittest match. And it was very fine. It was very fine. Both of those women are handling business in their own way. Aminata, obviously, recently back from an injury. Red Velvet has been doing a lot of stuff down in ROH. So the two of them together, it worked fine. There weren't any botches as far as I noticed. There were a couple moments that kind of got a little slow just to make sure that like a spot went off perfectly, I guess. But Aminata did end up with the victory in that one, so congratulations to her. She's moving on in the Survival of the Fittest match, and we will see her at the pay-per-view. Then we went backstage, and we had Renee interviewing the Young Bucks, and the Young Bucks seemed very pleased with what had happened earlier. And 37 seconds into this little backstage interview, there was a kerfuffle, and the cameras panned, and oh boy, wouldn't you know it, Cage and Cope were fighting the dogs down a stairwell, and then partially through the backstage area, they got to a makeup section, and I believe it was Connors grabbed the makeup lady and pulled her in front of him as like a human shield, to which Cope grabbed her, moved her out of the way, and then Cage went back on the offensive. They had thrown Finley into a wheelchair and threw him into a wall, and when he turned around and came back, he had a can of what I'm assuming was hairspray and got it in both Cope and Cage's eyes. Then both Finley and Connors grabbed some wiring and choked out Cope and Cage, and then did their 5-second poses, and then disappeared. It was a very strange moment, but they were very careful not to interrupt the makeup area. Then we came to the main event of the night. We got to see Ricochet take on Takeshita, and that match was much better than I had anticipated. I'm aware of what Ricochet can do. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of what Ricochet can do. We've all seen what Takeshita is capable of. And the two of them went for 20 minutes, just back and forth, beating the hell out of each other. Ricochet was jumping off stuff. Takeshita was hitting really hard, powerful moves and a Blue Thunder Bomb, which didn't work because it never works. And it was very, very good. Match of the night, honestly. Takeshita ended up with the win. He gets to retain his international title. And then after that was all said and done, Briscoe finally came out to talk. And he congratulated Takeshita at the top of the ramp. He already had a microphone, so he walked down to the ring, got in, started talking about cage matches and how him and his team have had really good luck with that kind of stuff. And then he started talking shit about MJF. And then Don Callis showed up and interrupted him from the entry ramp. And while Don Callis was over there doing his thing, MJF slipped in from behind, took Briscoe out, and it just started an entire brawl. And the brawl was so ridiculous and spot festy that I had to take a note of every single person that showed up and what happened. One moment. So MJF came out and attacked Briscoe from behind. Briscoe managed to turn it around and was about to hit a move on MJF when Fletcher came out and knocked the crap out of Briscoe. Then Takeshita came out, knocked the crap out of Fletcher, which then brought Okada out, who knocked the crap out of Takeshita. And then O'Reilly came out and hit a couple moves on Okada. Okada rolled out of the ring. O'Reilly turned around and got hit by a flying Knight. As soon as Knight was on his feet and O'Reilly rolled out of the ring, Darby came in and hit Knight with a couple of quick moves. And then Doyle came out. Doyle obliterated Darby. Strong came out right after that, tried to take out Doyle, didn't really work. Orange Cassidy came out next, and Strong and Orange Cassidy took out Doyle. Once Doyle was out of the way, MJF came back in and hit Orange Cassidy with a low blow, and MJF was just about to hit Orange Cassidy with, I believe, a powerbomb when Briscoe rolled back in the ring, got MJF, and was setting MJF up for the J Driller when Andrade came running out. Andrade obliterated Briscoe with a running clothesline, and Andrade and MJF started to attack Briscoe a little bit, but then they got into a little bit of a tizzy. Don Callis told Andrade to grab Briscoe, pick him up, and hold him so that MJF could hit him with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. Briscoe moved at the last second, and MJF took Andrade out with the Dynamite Diamond Ring and then yelled at him for being in the way. Then Briscoe got behind MJF, spun him around, kicked him, hit him with the J Driller. Game over for the night. Briscoe and his boys all stood tall at the end of the night, and it was a very fascinating thing to watch. I am very pumped for Sunday. I'm going to put my predictions online somewhere. I'm not quite sure where yet, but I will let you know on my Saturday episode, and we'll just go from there. But until then, get ready for this weekend. It's going to be awesome. Don't do anything crazy so you can see the pay-per-view this weekend. And be kind to yourselves. Peace.